everybody. Welcome to the City Girls Pod. This is a show where we're talking about Sex in the City, and we are into season six. We are talking today about season six, episodes five, six, and seven. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Jax is here.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Great. These episodes are really iconic. I'm so excited
Yeah.
to talk with you about them.
Yeah. I think that these episodes are the three that won me over to Sex in the City and also that I have seen the most. I think that season six was on TBS or TNT or whatever a lot.
This is a TBS repeat over and over. We got the
Yeah.
post-it note, we got the proposal, we
Yeah.
got a lot of stuff happening in these three.
Yes. Yes. And I thought that these episodes I think were earlier than they are, but they cram a ton of iconic stuff into these three episodes.
Yeah, it's so incredible to see this show just really, in season six, there is so much happening. Like, I thought Smith was around for so much longer than he was. He's only in season six,
Yeah,
but there were
exactly.
so many just iconic moments that they hit their stride. They know what they're doing. I wish this
Yes.
show could have run for longer.
I know. I kind of wonder why they stopped it at six. Was it just you have to wonder if it was the personal clashes that just made it untenable or what? Because it does seem like they kind of went out at the height of their powers.
Yeah, I wonder if that was part of it or if they wanted to do other things or what it was. But I mean, I actually am curious and might do a little deep dive on that because they had so many more stories that they could have told. And 6 seasons is amazing for a show, but I think they easily could have done eight and probably 10.
Yeah, I think so too. No question. Yeah. I mean, especially in the sort of if they've done it some more seasons like season five that are truncated seasons,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
definitely manageable.
So the first episode is called Lights, Camera, Relationship. And this we have Carrie trying to introduce Berger to Prada. Uh, and then also we have Miranda making cupcakes for Steve's girlfriend. And
Of course, she got roped into making cupcakes for Debbie. I mean, bless her heart.
and yes, and then we have Charlotte who is trying to get back into the dating world. So a lot going on here. But overall, what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, this episode is really fun. I think what makes it a little bit of the ick factor is what we've already seen a little bit of is Berger really having a difficult time managing his own ego.
Yeah. Well, and I do like the fact that he acknowledges that he's weak. The show is not trying to justify his behavior at all. And sometimes people are weak and petty, and that happens. And at least that I think makes his character interesting. He's not like just a jerk. He's like at least a jerk who knows he's a jerk.
Yeah, yeah. Which actually, you're right. It does make it better. There's a self awareness to it and almost a
Yes.
desperation of he's saying, I don't want to be this guy.
Yes. Yes. So she takes him to Prada and he's overwhelmed. He gets kind of sloshed with the free champagne. Uh, I understand what he is feeling because I can't, I think I would have sticker shock too at these places. I, I'm not judging anybody how you spend your money, live your life, but it is hard for me to understand some of the prices for some of the things. Like I can wrap my brain around, I think, going in and getting a dress, custom tailored, beautiful, really, whatever dress. If you want to see a really, really cute movie, you should check out Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. It's all about this woman who decides that she wants to get a custom dress from Dior. And it's really cute. I can understand that. But when you're talking about a shirt, a button-down shirt, and I looked at just out of curiosity uh on the Prada site to see what they don't have any button-down shirts currently on the Prada men's site, but they do have a turtleneck, just a plain black turtleneck, and you would spend at least $1,500
I'm
for
sorry. What?
yes. Uh, yes, that the cheapest thing that they had in the men's section was $1,500. And
I truly thought it would be ridiculous, but I was thinking more like 800, 850.
yeah. No, the cheapest thing currently on the Prada website is $1,500 for the men's section. And it was turtleneck. And not like cashmere or anything, just like a turtleneck, $1,500. I struggle with
That's
that. Like
rough.
and
Yeah,
I would
yes.
struggle with Burger. I would be like Burger because I don't know. I mean, how different can a button down shirt be? You know, that you spend maybe what? If you go to Macy's or wherever, buy a button down shirt, you're gonna spend maybe $100. I mean, tops.
Well, I think what's, when you think about these kind of prices, right? So I used to buy super super cheap clothes, fast fashion, and they do fit differently. So say like a $12 t-shirt is going to fit differently than like a really nice even $30 t-shirt, right?
Right.
But then when you start to get up into what we're talking here, which is just for the name, it doesn't fit differently. It doesn't look better. It's just for the
Yeah.
cachet of it.
Yeah, I was talking to my mom about this because she had gotten my dad some clothes from J. Crew, and she's like, "Ooh, designers," and I was telling her about this episode, like, because there's sort of that level. There's like the J. Crew, Eddie Bauer, and then just sort of department store sort of
Mm-hmm.
levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the designer levels are just a different. It's just a different world.
It truly is. I will say, kudos to your mom because I used to never wear J. Crew because it was expensive, and I will say fits like a dream.
Yeah,
I have like one J. Crew dress and I wear it all the time
yeah.
because it does, it is made well, it fits great, but it's not, again, it's this astronomical price
Yeah.
that boggles my mind.
And if you go on the Prada website, they have, I mean, it's just amazing the prices. Like I mean, Carrie's dress at least 3,500 at least.
Okay,
Um,
I
Probably
she's
more like $6,000 for her dress.
I mean, we need to talk about this. Carrie does not have Charlotte's income. Like,
Right.
how does Carrie? It she worries me. I mean,
Yeah.
this would just not be sustainable. Like, look, she's very successful, and we know she gets the $25,000 advance that we'll talk about. But like, that is a good chunk of money. But
Hmm.
it's a big chunk of money to her, right? And that's what boggles my mind. If she's spending $3,500 pretty regularly on clothes, and we know she spends a lot on shoes, then a $25,000 advance, well,
It goes quick.
it
Yeah.
goes quick. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is you get in these bubbles. People think, how the heck does somebody go bankrupt when they're like famous athletes or actors or whatever? But you get in these bubbles where you're spending like I don't know $100 on water, and it just gets crazy.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I mean, we know Carrie does not have a sustainable financial plan for her life.
No. Yes, I think her plan is to borrow money from Big. That's as best
Yeah,
she
you're
gets.
not wrong there. You're not wrong there.
So I would love to hear somebody's defense of why this shirt is worth $1,500. I mean, and he does say that's a whole month of rent, which
Yeah, which
yeah,
actually tracks for a
yeah,
cheaper New York City. Yeah, like if he has a studio in a neighborhood, that actually totally tracks.
yeah. So yeah, we find out Carrie gets the 25K advance, and then she runs into Amy Sedaris and found out that Amy Sedaris just got fired. It seems unlikely to me that if Amy Sedaris had just gotten a book that in France alone had a royalty of $25,000, which is a lot, I think, that because most authors don't make that much money off of their books
Yeah.
unless you're talking like Stephanie Meyer J.K. Rowling, whatever. Like most authors are working multiple jobs.
Yeah, and that was just her advance. Like they're hoping
for
she makes
one
more.
country, for
one
France.
country.
So it seems unlikely that Amy Sedaris would get fired if this book is so successful that she promoted, that she was the publicist.
I wonder if they just needed a way for her to talk about Berger, but I guess it wouldn't matter. She could still have that conversation even if she did still work for them.
Well, yeah. So she finds out that the publisher dropped Berger, that they are not picking up his second book. So that's why Berger is very insecure and jealous of Carrie.
I mean, this is bad news bears for Berger. Bad news bears for Berger. I get it. It's tricky and it is difficult. I'm sure I haven't experienced this, but when someone is in your same profession and you're having a downward trajectory and they're going up.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy.
And me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
It's easy to feel jealous. I mean, I've felt it. There have been people that have come into the podcast space that have just hit it off and done great. And and it's hard to not feel jealous. And then also, I'm not dating those people, so I think that would be even harder if I was.
I doubt you'd want to be.
No, I don't think so. But I can sympathize with Berger. I guess where it gets me is I think he does take it into a judgmental place. And then that's frustrating.
Yeah, I have a much easier time dealing with mopey than angry and judgmental. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Rachel. Like he is getting so judgmental and he's not letting her have the joy that comes with her success, which, she has worked really hard for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then we have Charlotte. She is very offended by the fact that everyone thinks she's just going to give up Judaism because she's not with Harry. And I thought her whole scene with Anthony was really funny.
Oh my gosh. Rachel, and I love that she is committed to this now. She's not a fair weather Jew, as she said.
Right. Yes. And I liked their fashion in the diner scene where Carrie has like a dress with like a tie-dye-ish kind of print.
Yeah.
And then Charlotte has a white top on, and I don't know, all four of them I thought looked nice. I'm
impressed with the fashion in this season. I don't think they're doing as many weird things, which I'm all for weird, but sometimes you're like, some of the things that Carrie was wearing, I think it was in 5 or was it in 4, were just bonkers.
Yeah.
I like kooky style dress.
Yes. And what did you think of the Prada dress though? The brown with the horseshoe kind of on the shoulder.
Like it was fine. It was cute. I probably wouldn't pay more than $40 for it.
Yes.
Like, what did you think?
I didn't love it. It was okay as far as the design. It was fine, but I don't think the color was particularly good for Sarah Jessica Parker. I mean, that brown kind of muddy, that would have looked much better on Kristen Davis, or some, I don't know, with the darker complexion. I think would have looked better with that brown.
I think you've said it before, and I agree. Carrie looks really great in vibrant colors.
Yes. So if this dress had been a pink or a red or something like that, it would have a lot more, or blue. This just kind of muddy brown. I don't know. Didn't do much for her, I don't think.
No. And she paid a lot for it to do not much.
A lot. So we have Smith is in this play. He wants to become an actor. This play, what made me laugh? I mean, I don't know what exactly this play is, but it looked brutal.
Can I tell you?
I don't blame Samantha. She was just like, I don't want to go to this play.
The number of plays I've been in like that, not in Brooklyn, but in Queens, there was no nudity in any of mine. Let me just say this. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but not in any of the shows that I was in. But however, it just shows that you're like, what is going on? What is happening? And no one is in the audience. So I could relate to Smith. And I love that he's like, I love my craft. He's just darling. I love this man. I love this man for her.
Yeah, it reminds me of a great episode of How I Met Your Mother where there's off Broadway, there's off Broadway, and then there's whatever Lily was where she's like literally the whole play is them like spraying water at the audience and saying moist over and over again. Moist.
I did a show once. It was probably the first show I did when I moved to the city. It was a one-act play festival in Queens. A great cast and great director, and it was a good writer, but the way it came together was so strange. And we were standing at looking, four of us looking straight out into the audience, wearing paper bags over our heads and like monologuing at them. And I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, no, we're like holding them hostage here. No one wants to be here.
You're like, what am I doing with my life?
I sure was. I still think that regularly when I get myself into weird situations where I'm like, no one's enjoying what I'm peddling here.
It was funny. And Carrie asked the question, does this new man exist? Are the men of today less threatened by women's power, or are they just acting? I don't know. I guess I haven't dated enough to really answer this question. I think that I think it's more just, I think there is a little bit of that we still have a dynamic where men can be threatened by strong women. I think that still exists. I also just think we're just threatened in general by strong people. Like, I think that sometimes I can be threatened by a strong woman, and get insecure about my own, because I think we all feel like imposters in our own life, and that's imposter syndrome is totally a thing. And so I think that men can be threatened by strong men. I think that they can be threatened by strong women. And I don't know if that's necessarily equal. I do think they maybe are there's still a little bit of that gender dynamic going on. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's an issue. What do you think?
Well, I love what you're saying about imposter syndrome, because I'm always like, I don't have imposter syndrome. I'm actually just an imposter. Like, it's not that, you know what I mean? Do you ever have that where you're like, I'm so deep in it. Sometimes it's like, no, I'm not thinking it. I'm actually really good at tricking people. So like, I get that. But I think I agree with everything you said. I think for me, at least what I've encountered is that maybe because it's like the actor freelancer thing, I don't feel like I've ever intimidated anyone like financially. And I think that maybe I have friends who work in other industries that make a lot, like women who make a really good living. And I think they ran into a lot of trouble. So that's just at least what I've observed.
Yeah.
Not with every, and these are women who are dating men, not with every guy they're dating, but I do think it's sometimes a weird thing.
Yeah, I think it definitely can happen. And yeah, I mean, for me, where I feel like where I catch myself with the imposter syndrome is like when I interviewed Andrea Canning, who's like super nice and wonderful, but to me, that's like, she's a real journalist. I'm just like messing around at home in my house, like so I'm like, she like interviews for a living on like Dateline, like I am not a professional journalist. And so that's when I, especially anytime that I'm kind of elevated to that level, like just like, oh, I don't know, like at Christmas Con, sitting there in between E! News and People Magazine, I'm like, what? Ah. But
also like not weirdly, I just think like Christmas Con, I feel like that's your domain more than it's their domain. I understand.
No, it's true.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think you belong there more than they do.
Yeah, that's fair. It's true. But I'm just like, I'm why am I in this line with all these journalists? Like, that's when I feel imposter syndrome, is like when I'm treated like an actual journalist, and I'm like, I'm just somebody at my house, like talking to my friends. I'm not a journalist.
What's going on?
But I've interviewed over 350 people, so I guess I should.
Well, I think what you do sits in a very interesting intersection of things, because it's journalism, but it's also reviewing, and it's also entertainment. So it's an interesting cross section of, I can see in some ways why you would feel like that, only because you're in multiple spaces, and I don't really know that many people that intersect those in the way that you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I feel like sometimes I'm an imposter in all three areas.
Imposter for real? That's okay. So is there one where you're just like, I'm killing it in this realm? Like,
but especially when I'm like treated as a actual journalist, I'm just like, but you just step up to the plate and get it done.
Yeah, you do. And you wear a Santa hat when you do it. I'm all for that. If we dress up, it's all good.
So Berger takes Carrie on this motorcycle ride, and I don't know how you could really get that fast in Manhattan.
No, I know what she's saying about going over the bridge, but also like, I've never ridden on a motorcycle, but I've ridden a bicycle. I know it's not the same thing, but everything does feel fast, to me at least. I mean, I think it's just like, I don't even know if he was going that fast or being reckless, but I'm sure being on a motorcycle is kind of scary. Like, what did you think about this whole interaction?
I don't know. It felt a little unrealistic to me, because I'm just like, how fast could you be going in Manhattan? Like, could you really be that fast?
Yeah.
And so it was a little hard for me to get into the moment. And then, she complains about helmet hair, but her hair's in a ponytail. So she can't have helmet hair with a ponytail.
No, and the ponytail looked great, but it looked like it would stay, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I don't know. To me, it seemed like she was just annoyed that he wasn't there with the cab, and she was going to find a reason to complain anyway.
Yeah, it made her feel kind of petty, because her objections didn't make sense to me. But then, he says, I don't want to be this guy. And he says, sorry, I didn't think I was going that fast. And he doesn't want to get on the red carpet. The people on the red carpet ignore him. So he says he wants to leave. And I don't know. I mean, I just feel like that's just part of being in a relationship, is attending events that you don't want to attend, that are important to the other person.
Yeah, I think it was an awkward moment where she's like, Jack Berger, he's a writer too. It was, and I know she wasn't doing it to be like that, but it all felt like, I'm sure all of his insecurity buttons are getting pushed.
Yeah. But luckily Stanford is there, and I loved when he says, a stud is born.
Spot on.
I love Stanford.
He's so great.
And then Charlotte meets Tony from Prada in there at the play. And then we also have Miranda making cupcakes for Debbie. She goes over there. She thinks it's for the play group. Turns out it's for Debbie. And these are I guess rough homespun cupcakes. They're not professional.
Yeah. Good word for that, Rachel. Yeah, and they have to write happy birthday,
rustic.
Debbie. Yeah, very rustic. Extremely.
Yes. And so that, yes, she says that that she's playing a part, the I'm not in love with Steve part, the one woman show of I'm not in love with
Yes.
Steve.
And Steve continues to be adorable.
Yes. He has no idea that she's feeling this way, which you can't blame him because her behavior to him hasn't really changed that much.
No, she covers a lot. And
Yes.
when he kisses her on the forehead, though, it's adorable.
Yeah. It's really good. Uh, uh, and then yeah, Miranda calls Carrie and she's like sobbing, and Carrie's like, move away from the icing.
And she does. She
Yes.
listens to Carrie.
And says, blame the baby. That's what they're there for.
She's not wrong.
Yeah, about the cupcakes. And so yes, so she ends up going to the red carpet and everything. And so that is this episode. What would you give this one 1 to 10?
This is tough because in this package of episodes, it's probably my least favorite, but I really, really like it. So I think I'm going to give it an 8.5.
I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's good. Next, we have episode 6. This is Hop, Skip, and a Week. And this episode, we have Charlotte in the blind date scene, the synagogue blind date scene. All the the moms are desperate to set her up with their sons. And so she goes on some funny dates in this one. And I really just thought it was hilarious when she ends up on the date with Berger and Carrie, and then they who are fighting in a fight. And she says that Charlotte left 2 bad dates of the night. Is her second bad date of the night.
Oh, and it was. I mean, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. And the weird thing is that I got why Carrie was annoyed with Berger's comment, because he did seem a little insensitive to Charlotte. But then Carrie was really cutting about the way Berger was insensitive. And then that made him, you just see both sides of it, but it really snowballed into something nasty.
Yes. And I mean, Carrie has a right to order her food however she wants, especially if you're at a fancy place like that. Then you can get it without parsley if you want, because it is true that parsley is on everything. So you do need to make sure it's kind of like, if you don't like pepper or something, like that's just tough.
Well, I really have a difficult time. I think that we, especially in media, we see it portrayed as women being like finicky or fussy about this. And really, it's just asking them to give you what you want. But we seem to have a problem when women do it.
Yeah.
And it's so annoying because she's not even being particularly fussy. She's just saying, I don't want parsley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and I do understand when he says, I can't believe you put me down in front of your friend, because she is pretty dismissive of him. So I can understand why he would feel that way. And then he says, when did you stop being on my side? And I can understand that too.
Yeah, because she really does kind of like go for it. She's like, don't talk that way to her. And it doesn't even feel like, I think she could have pivoted the conversation like, oh no, I Charlotte, I totally get it. And more like reassured Charlotte rather than saying something like that to Berger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and so Carrie's on jury duty, and she thinks that she can get out of it because she's a freelance writer. No, you cannot. I've never had jury. Well, I had to check in one time, but I've never actually served jury duty.
I haven't yet either, but I don't. It depends. Would you be interested in doing it?
I would, just to see how I would be interested in sort of the machinations of how it all works. And I don't think you get an instructional video narrated by Diane Sawyer.
I wish.
Like in this, I highly doubt that. I was just like, introduction to the your day
How do we get
serving
that?
the court, like what? That was funny.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Yeah. I don't think we have that kind of production values in the court system, I guess. Maybe it's a federal crime, then maybe
then you get Diane Sawyer.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But there's a guy there at the jury duty that keeps bringing out weird things out of his briefcase. So we have a mango. And he gets a mango, which is a kind of a hard food to eat on the road.
Definitely. I haven't tried, but I probably wouldn't. Fruit. I mean, I love eating banana on the go, but then you have the peel.
Yeah. I mean, it's very drippy. I mean, assuming it's ripe, very drippy. So it would be hard to eat it without just being a complete mess, as opposed to like an apple, which doesn't really drip that much.
Yes. And mango is the drippiest of all fruits. So.
Yeah. And Burger's like, well, if he brings a pineapple, then you don't really know.
It's cute.
So also Charlotte says that the date that she's on she goes on this terrible date, and the guy brings her carnations, and she says, oh, this is a filler flower, it's not a real flower. And Burger's just like, what? And Carrie says that, oh, I like carnations, pink carnations. I think I would be excited if a guy brought me flowers, period.
I think honestly, like any gesture is cute. A pack of licorice, sure. Like it's just showing they're thinking about you.
Yes. But I mean, it is a filler flower. She's not wrong.
Like, I mean, she's telling the truth.
Yes.
I think I do bristle at people who sort of place judgment on like tokens of affection like that, because it's like someone. Now, I can understand if you've been with someone for a long time and it's your birthday or something, and they do give you something that you're just like, this doesn't feel like me. It feels like you don't know me or something. I can understand maybe going, because I'm so emotional about things. I could see, I've never had that happen either, but I could just imagine going into that realm. But someone just going on a first date with any sort of gesture is just lovely, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So then we have that Burger saying he needs space, and we also get Samantha saying the test of a relationship is how you smile/frown. She said
he has a point,
and she's supportive of this whole idea. She's like, use this time to think about what you want. And then Carrie says, do we need distance to get close?
I have to say, I am really enjoying the Samantha of season 6. I think she's not that she was one-dimensional before, but I think that we're getting to see interesting sides of her. I see it with Smith, and she's still her, like, this sex-loving Samantha, but you see her caring about him, and then like being good at her job and offering this advice to Carrie. I don't know. I'm really into her.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of wish that she would listen a little bit more to Smith, and not just sort of steamroll, especially them. So she makes him this, she says, this is what you really want, is to become an actor. And so, okay. And so she gets him to be the absolute guy on Times Square billboard. And that is a little bit, I think, unfeeling, the fact that he is a recovering alcoholic in AA, to have him. I mean, it's like, couldn't she have come up with something else?
Like an underwear model.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I don't feel like publicists promote clients, but they don't create advertising campaigns.
I mean, I just think he's so good looking that she's like, I know I can introduce him to anyone. And to your point, I agree that she's not listening to him, but there's something character wise about it, and then hoping that she'll change, that I find interesting about her arc in this season. But yeah, she isn't really, I mean, he wants to be a serious actor.
Yes. And it is funny when she says that you get the gays first and then the girls and Hollywood will follow.
And yeah, that's not wrong.
No,
I love when Charlotte's on that blind date with that guy and he's like, look, we both know I'm gay.
Yes.
And she's like, oh, cool. And then he points to the picture of Smith and he's like, can you introduce me to him? And she's like, he's straight.
Yes. And then we have, Charlotte going on all these bad dates, and Miranda is struggling with the mom guilt big time. She's giving up a lot of time at work, and she's not there to put Brady to bed. She misses him the whole day, basically. And it's tough. I mean, I don't know how moms do it in general, but working moms, stay-at-home moms, unbelievable. They're all but it's
anyone
really
who's
hard.
momming is
yes.
It's incredible. Like, and it's so sad that she feels like she can't even do an adequate job in either. But what I think the most frustrating thing is she actually feels way more confident about what's happening at work and guilty about it at home. And then they're giving her a hard time at work. It's like, people back off. I feel like I do feel and hope that it's true that at least the workplace dynamic has changed even in the last 5-6 years, that we're a little bit more aware of parenting. I hope.
I think what's hard is that at least I can imagine that it would be hard because you have you always have the new graduates that are there ready to kill themselves for the firm or wherever it is you're doing.
Yes.
Right, nipping at your heels at the same time that you need to spend more time at home. And so there's always somebody who can replace you at work. Where that but what are you going to do? Because I think it would be hard, because how much do you give up a family time in order to make things work at work? But how much is also too much, and you have to be dedicated to work. Finding that balance. I mean, I don't have a family, so I don't have to worry about that. But if I did, it would be a problem because I have zero work balance at all. I mean, my job is 100% my whole life.
I think you and I are similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's very, I think it'd be very difficult to balance having kids. I think that, like, I still make time to like see my family, like my birth family, whatever you want to say. But like, if I had kids, like, a kid is an everyday thing that their schedule, as it should, dictates your whole life.
Yeah, it's kind of like those ads, I think it's for like Dayquil or something like that, when you see the guy and he's like, I'm all sick and I need a day off or whatever, and you think he's talking to someone at work, but no, it's his kid. And it's kind of looking at him like, okay, there are no days off.
No, there are no days off, and we would not be podcasting midday during the week if we.
Yes. Especially when you're doing a solo like Miranda is. I'm blown away by single moms.
Oh my gosh, she's doing incredible. And like, I think also another thing with that is not to take away anything from what Miranda is doing, because she's incredible. But she's also a woman who has a great job and a lot of money and privilege and can afford help and has the money. And it's like, people who don't have that, it's like even more hats off to them.
Yeah. Well, so then Miranda tells the people at work that she's cutting back to 50 hours a week, 55 tops. And
still a very full work week.
Yes. And so she's still going to get it done. And they'll have to make it work. They'll have to make it work. And then we have the cutest scene ever in I think the whole show is. So Charlotte is at this kind of mixer, I guess, for
Yeah. A
for the
singles mixer
synagogue.
for Jewish singles.
Yeah. And these other women are being super catty, and they're like, all we got left is the baldies and the fatties.
She's like, I'm looking for my baldy.
Yeah, and she's like, Charlotte could only hope that it was her baldy. And then he shows up and he says, and he says that being away from you made it all the more clear how much I love you. I don't care if you ever marry me. I just want to be with you. I would be lucky to have you if you can forgive me. And then he says, that's not enough. And he proposes. It was so good. Oh,
What? Oh my gosh. Kristen, I can't wait to get through this. Kristen Davis in this scene, the way she has tears welling up in her eyes, but she will not cry. She will not like let them fall down her cheeks, but she's like, call me Harry. And it's just so sweet. And then I laughed so hard at the women who's like, oh, we'll come back next week. They're like, okay, if she got engaged in like 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm so coming back next week. The catty women.
So great.
It was so funny. And yeah, it's probably one of my favorite moments of the whole show.
Oh,
if not my favorite.
It is just pitch perfect.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
We have the guy showing up with a coconut at the jury thing, which is really funny.
Lots to unpack with this man.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're gonna open a coconut, you need a mallet and a thing to pound it into.
You do, but he.
Yeah. So that was funny, and she wanted to tell Berger about it, but then Berger shows up, and they with pink carnations, and then the next morning there's a post-it note, and it says, "I'm sorry, I can't. Don't hate me." So the carnations get thrown to the floor.
I love a moment where Carrie Bradshaw just loses her gosh darn mind.
Yes.
She did it when she threw the McDonald's food at the wall at Biggs.
Yeah.
And then when she just smashed the carnations off the table. I don't know. She's just so great. But yeah, I bet it was interesting for Ron Livingston to like be reading the script, or maybe he knew before he read the script that he was getting written out, but just like, oh great, I'm back. Okay, maybe I have reconciling with Carrie, and then being like, oh, that's my move. That's how I end. But it's so iconic, and it's
yeah.
great.
I mean, now it would definitely be a text message, I think, for sure. But I mean, there is just something bizarre to me about like being with somebody and then the next morning having such a dramatic change.
Yeah, especially I think with the fact that he took the break and went to his house and was decompressing, almost like if he was at his house thinking about this, and like you said, say it was nowadays, and he could text message her that. But that would make more sense to me. Like, okay, you're away, all that's going on. But the fact that he was actually with her and wanted to work things out and then bailed really kind of boggled my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So it's rude to at least not have some kind of conversation, to just leave a note like that and not even like a letter. I guess it would be one thing if it was like a letter.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's at least Aiden had the he might have left the not removal. What's it called?
The deed to the house or whatever.
The eviction. He
Yes.
might have left her with an eviction paper in the letter, but at least he talked to her about it first and helped her with her toilet.
Yeah. And like there was like Aiden is such a kind person, right? I mean,
yeah.
But Berger, it's like you're gonna bail with the Post-it note, like, and you're a writer and you don't have more to see than that.
Right. So I still, though, I think I'm going to give this episode a 10. It's a great episode.
I mean,
one of my favorites.
It's a perfect Sex and the City episode. Charlotte gets proposed to, Post-it note breakup, like Carrie gets arrested. Well, not gets arrested, but like, you know, I think the end where they're all giggling after the whole marijuana debacle in the restaurant.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about that.
It's just so again, peak Sex in the City. And you realize it's like, I just love these women together so much.
Yeah. And do they get high in, is it this episode or the next episode?
Is it the next one?
Next episode they get high. But yeah,
right, because it's the same day, because she's like, this can't be the day that I got broken up by a Post-it note, but it's the beginning of so take that. But I'm sorry, friends.
No, that's okay. But it is a good episode as far as Miranda dealing with work and her growth as a character. It's a really good episode as far as is this iconic Post-it note breakup, and with Carrie as Charlotte getting proposed to. It's a really good one. But
this one too, where Miranda has her face on the baby mobile.
Oh yeah.
I love that. So yeah, you're right. They packed a lot into this.
They really did. So then we have episode 7, which is the Post-it always sticks twice. And so Charlotte is in her engaged bubble. She is super happy. But she feels like when she says everything happens for a reason. If I hadn't been with Trey, then I wouldn't have met Harry, kind of a thing, which I think that it is interesting to kind of go back. It's certain like peak points in your life and think, okay, like what are the decisions that ended up getting me there? Like the fact that I don't think my sister wouldn't have met her husband if my family hadn't moved to California, because I ended up going to community college my senior year because my ACT score wasn't very high. So I wouldn't have gotten into BYU just off of that. Yeah. But the fact that I had a whole year of A's in college because I didn't have any friends and I was just work because my family just moved there. Right. Yeah. And so I got in there, and then my sister decided to go to college with me, go to BYU with me, even though she was 2 years younger. So she came out, and that's when she met her husband, and then, the rest is history. So you just look at all the little pieces that had to fall into place to make that happen. I don't think that everything in the whole world is like that, but I do think there's like peak things in life that you could kind of look back and be like, okay, I think God was guiding me to this moment.
Yeah. And I love the way Charlotte is able to just appreciate that and sort of encourage that same appreciation in others.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. It's also could be super irritating too, especially for Carrie when she just like doesn't want to see the bigger picture right now. She just wants to be angry and frustrated at Berger for doing this.
And that's fair because it is the same day I love that we get 2 episodes out of the Post-it note because it is so funny.
Yeah. Well, and so they have this new club bed, which is kind of hilarious. It feels like a real club that could really exist and probably has.
Really. Yeah, probably. Definitely.
Yes. And Miranda kind of has a meet cute with some guy from in the club bed.
That was really cute because she's wearing her skinny jeans.
Yes.
She's feeling good. She's looking good. I mean, more importantly, she's confident again. She's always been beautiful and you're like looked great, but she doesn't she's never, I don't know. This is the first time I've seen her have real confidence with it.
Yeah, and there was some good fashion in this episode, not only what they wore to the club, although I thought Samantha's outfit was strange with the New York Dolls dress.
Yeah.
I was like,
interesting.
What? Yeah. Weird. There's actually a really good documentary. It's called New York Doll, about the one of the lead singers of the New York Dolls that
Really?
ended up becoming a Mormon, which is just you wouldn't expect. So it's kind of interesting.
No, you wouldn't, but
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, it's a good documentary. But so Smith is struggling with all of this. And he says, "How did I get hooked up with such an amazing girlfriend?" And that makes Samantha anxious, nervous. And she says, "Oh, when you go on TRL, you shouldn't say that you have a girlfriend, that's going to hurt your career." So then he goes on TRL, which they watch in this dumpy bar that they're at. And he says exactly what Samantha told him to say. And then she doesn't like it.
I love that moment. She's watching him and it's like, this doesn't feel right either, not being someone special. But he likes her. He really likes her and he wants to tell people he has a girlfriend. He's the one who said the G word, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I like for him, at least her age isn't a problem at all. He doesn't really even see it. And also, he's not doing the whole like cougar thing, which I hate.
Yes, he just likes her. Like,
Yeah.
Smith is the most well-adjusted, loving, awesome partner. I like that they didn't make him an idiot because
Yeah.
he's so handsome and young that I could see it'd be like, oh, the young dumb boyfriend who's an actor and a model. But they didn't do that. He's a really good person, and we see even more of that later. And I just love him.
I do too. And so Charlotte's saying, "Oh, she's not gonna have bridesmaids at her wedding," and they're all like, "Yay!" But she is feeling like she can't do a big wedding. She can't do because she already did it. And it would be awkward because it's not like just that she already did it. She barely did it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that would be awkward.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even I would be supportive of my friend or anything, but even I would just be kind of like, didn't I just go to that person's wedding? Like, what is happening?
Like, it's tricky because it's twofold. Like, I feel like she deserves to be celebrated because this is her true love, right? But I had a similar situation with a really good friend of mine who she got married right out of college, and I was friends with her and her husband. I was in the wedding. It was great. And then a few years later, that she ended up marrying someone else that we also went to college with. And really tight. I'm still really good friends with her, but like I had a show and I didn't cancel the show to be at the wedding because I love her and I wanted to be there, but it was also just like, yeah, it's tricky. It's really tricky.
Yeah, I mean, and especially people do these vow renewals. I'm just like, do you really expect me to give you 2 presents?
Like, how many times am I gonna have to?
Nothing has happened. You're just, I mean, I guess it's, I can understand why they want to do it just for themselves, but to invite people, I think is very weird.
Well, especially when I think we need to normalize in our culture more celebrating other things like promotions and career success and other things that happen. If we did do that, then I'm all about celebrating. But does that, I don't know. Am I making sense?
I mean, like, I'm fine as long as I don't have to bring a present. I guess I'm fine going to the arena. But if it just seems like a lot to expect a present for a non. There's nothing. You're just making this up. You know what I mean? Like it's a vow renewal. Like,
you're like, what's happening here?
Nothing actually has happened. Like, I don't know. No offense to anyone who has vow renewals. If you invite me, I'm not bringing a present.
I'll be there.
Yes. Anyway, so then we have Carrie sees Berger's friends there, and I don't know if we had been introduced to these people before. I can't remember, but these guys,
they don't seem like they'd be Berger's friends. Also, by the way, I feel like he'd have cool writer friends or just guys that are better than this.
Yes.
Ew.
Yes, I thought the same thing. But yeah, she goes over there and she's trying to be all like cool, and she says that Berger is bad in bed at the bed club, you know, kind of a thing, and Berger says that the friend, Berger's friend, says that that maybe you'd get psycho the psycho bitch. Yes. So that offends her, and she just says there's no good way to break up. But I mean, he says, the friend says there's no good way to break up. And she's, yes, there is, to have the guts to actually have an uncomfortable breakup conversation. I do kind of agree that I don't think there's necessarily like a great way to break up. It's going to be uncomfortable, but I think you should have more than a post-it if it's an extended relationship.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild that they're even trying to defend this.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, there's no great way, but we know that ain't it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they go to this other bar trying to find weed.
Desperate search of weed.
Yes. And there's like peanuts on the floor. It's like a country western bar kind of
vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. And that's where they watch TRL. And so then Samantha makes out with this guy at the bar because it's like revenge on Smith for not saying he had a girlfriend.
Revenge on Smith for doing exactly what she told him to do.
Yes. And then it turns out his girlfriend is there, the guy that she kisses, and it gets all mayhem.
I mean, that guy.
Gross.
Oh, yeah. She's not into it. This is where you see a sadness to Samantha, that it's not just about her being free, which I could get. It's about her being terrified of commitment. And that's where my heart goes out to her.
Yeah. And I think that she is just afraid of change.
Yes.
Yeah. That things aren't going to last, or that I don't know. I just think she seems like a super confident person, but she actually has a lot of insecurities too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they get the pot and they get pretty slammed. I've never smoked pot. I know, shocker, but it felt funny to me. It felt realistic there.
The giggles that they had, like, they were cracking me up. Like, they just were so like, it felt like church giggles or like sleepover giggles. You know what I mean? Yes. And that which felt different than, like, they consume a lot of alcohol on this show, but we don't see them drunk that much. And when we see them drunk, it's like Carrie being way too overserved and getting sick or something. So
yeah, like she was at Vogue.
Yes. And that doesn't look fun, but man, they look like they're having fun.
Yes. And we know that, we know Carrie is, at least with alcohol, she's a quick drunk. Yes. It doesn't take much.
No.
So I don't know if that's true also with pot, but anyway, she gets arrested and they're telling the officer about the breakup by Post-it note, which was really funny. And she puts the Post-it note on the window. It's like, oh, that's brutal.
Right into the window.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And it's hilarious how she's got like her hood up and she turns around and she's smoking a doobie.
Yes. And so then Charlotte, by the end, she does say, I want you to be my bridesmaids, but you can wear whatever dress. You don't have to be in matching dresses.
Yeah. This is such friendship feels for me.
Yeah. And her ring is massive.
I mean,
so Harry's big. Doing quite well.
He's getting all those New York City divorces.
Yeah. Yeah, that ring probably costs $100,000.
Oh yeah,
somewhere in there.
Yeah,
it's
not even more. I mean, it's huge. It's huge.
So there we go. That is, and I did like at the beginning when Samantha says the MFers concise, at least.
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
She's being real fun these
Yeah.
days. I'm into it.
So what would you give this one?
I really like this one too. I would give this one a 9.5 or a 10. Like just at the end when Carrie's laughing and she's like, it'll be the day I got arrested for smoking a doobie. And they're all laughing at the table. And yeah, I just think it's so fun. I think I like the last one a little bit better, but I would say it's a 9.5. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say a 9, but it's in that ballpark for sure. So let us know what you think of these 3 episodes. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And make sure that you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. Jax, where can people find you?
At Jacqueline C. Tweets on Twitter and Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
And you can find us at City Girls Pod also on Twitter. And I try to share whenever I see anything that's Sex and the City related on there. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store. Check out all of that, including City Girls Pod merch. And yeah, we'll talk to you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.